that we can. Welcome everyone to the LinkedIn Power Lab webinar. I run this series normally every month, but I skipped 2 because I've been partially on travel. So therefore now again for the second time for this year. And the topic for today is creative content copy for LinkedIn. Those who know me a bit might remember that I have a big passion of using the same letter 3 times, so like in this example, and there might be more from this. So the way how that works, shortly I will introduce myself to those who don't know me yet that well. So for example, James, you are joining here for the first time. My name is Gunnar. I'm a social media consultant. I'm writing about social selling. That means how to use LinkedIn to advance conversations. I created some online courses, actually doing the 4th one at the moment, and I published a couple of books, 22 in the meantime. So I'm happy also to have one of my fellow book writers here today, which is Mani, actually from Hamburg. Yeah, we actually have been featured in some books beforehand. So another book still to come for this year, maybe even 2, but that's not the topic for today. What I like to cover for today is creative content copy for LinkedIn. And I put it into 3 areas, and we will have also a couple of questions in between. First, the creative element. How can we listen and care, which brings us to ideas to talk content? The second one is content itself. How can we write and publish and get a little bit of guidance for doing so? Because for writers, it's often a problem to have a block and not know what to do, what to write. And that is not an easy thing. So there are some people who are good in creative writing. They have some methods that they can use. And I would like to show you what I use in order to get my content to paper. The third topic is copy. The word copy in English has 2 meanings. In terms of copy and paste, like you see in this picture a little bit, you can do a multiple of an original as copy. But of course, the word copy itself also means like advertising text. That also means copy. And I will talk actually about both of these things. And I like to play with words, as Mani, you remember from earlier ages, or also Olin, you know that as well. So let's get started. And the way how I would like to do this, so if ever possible, when you would like to talk, please do so, otherwise be muted, and we can use the chat. And I will actually also ask you for each of these 3 areas with 1 question. Let's get into creativity. And then the first one, and not just LinkedIn, in general about writing. Where do you get inspiration for your content? And I will write the question in the chat as well. Where do you get inspiration for your content? Oh, there was a typo. Or in German, for Mani, wo holst du deine Inspiration für dein Material, was du schreibst? So please, if you could write something there, I very often take even this, what I get out of my webinars, and do something with it. So my example, listening to Mani, die kannst du auch auf Deutsch schreiben. So keen to hear where you get the inspiration from. So in the chat room. So I hope you can see what I'm already writing. So, but let's use some examples. Mani here. Inspiration from poems and non-fiction books, reading events. Yes, reading events. Good one. I come to this topic. That's good. James, from something that might be of current interest from multiple media. And I think that you get your inspiration then, and you don't plan to write about it, but then you have an idea. You are inspired, and then you would like to do something with it, but how to note it down, in which type of format, and so on. That's not always so easy. Let me put out some ideas, a couple of ideas. Content audit. First of all, let's think about not just as a solopreneur, but as maybe a smaller company. The company might already have some material. For example, something printed. Or even when you are solopreneur, when you are a book author and you have done something for an event in the past, you might have something that you can review. about it. Next one would be documents. You might have something that has been good 2 years ago, before the pandemic, change it. A website or blog. Social media posts, whatever you are posting, a lot of ideas where to first it's worth to have an audit to find out what really actually is useful. And there's a lot. Or customer testimonials. Most people don't simply ask their customers to get an understanding if they like what you do for them. And the way how they write it can often result into nice inspiration for an experience that you can share further, exchange with other personas as well. So basically, check what you already have, which for a writer is not always easy because they often think about get something new. So what do we have externally? We see industry publications. So I have this in whatever role when I've been in risk management. I had all these magazines from institutions and so on. So that was quite useful. And then people that we follow. So there are some people on social media that I follow in particular, like Nicholas Cole is one, or I will share another one, which is Justin Welch, who is writing like genius. And I'll show you an example how he does that. Content from some of your stakeholders, could be suppliers, could be business partners, anything just around you. Look what they do, what they have. Online magazines, like whatever the industry is. So I would look into Forbes, Inc.com, if I would write about business, or in other areas, whatever is around there. And of course, the most busy place, which is social media. And that means check what's there. But as you can guess, between what you have and what is there, there's something missing. And that's basically what you don't know. So what's beyond that? Where can you get something? So there's one term which is called social listening. And I give you an example. If I would write about the Sydney Opera House just providing, or let's say Opera Australia, just providing Phantom of the Opera outside open air in Sydney for a magazine in Vienna, I should know not only what's going on here, but also reflecting in the magazine in Austria I'm writing for. So the writer needs to be the listener in the first place. And where can we listen? On social media. I talk later what that means. I can use Twitter. Twitter is actually growing quite nicely, and you can learn so much from there. You can even create lists of people or institutions you follow and hide them, that nobody sees it, that you are following your competition or whoever. It's good to get ideas. The next one is feedly.com. That is a kind of a news aggregator. We can program it and say what content you would like to follow, whatever topic, and then you get consolidated email every day with great ideas. Same these traditional RSS feeds. When you have some program that can read that, you can set it up as well, or simple Google search. As a funny example, having all in here in the call, one day I wanted to check my name. I do it maybe once, twice a year in Google, but I made a typo. I wrote habits with an S instead of a Z. What came out there was my tour guide book about Prague, which I wrote some years ago in the Russian version because they made an error in translating my name into Cyrillic. And that was nice. I didn't know that my publisher had a Russian version. And lucky enough, Audit, it was you who brought that from Prague to Sydney about 3-4 years ago. Thanks for that. Related, thank you. Without Googling my name, I would not know that I have a book in Russian. Or that I can use it at this moment, but I'm happy that I have that. You can even save your own search, whatever you're searching for in Google, so that every day or whatever frequency, you get an email from Google who says everything that's relevant for that particular topic, like your name or whatever you're following. So instead of just searching Google, let Google search and tell you when there is something new. And there's nothing, you get nothing. So that's the idea, to check what's missing. Some just ideas, particularly having also a creative writer like Mani here today. I think that might go there. So then you can also check not just the essence of a content, what it's all about, but you can check how it's transported, the types of content, the frequency, the reception within the audience. It makes no sense to write when nobody engaged with that. So these are the things what I say, that is a kind of a content audit, finding the famous tree in the forest. And that's not easy. But when we do this on a regular base, then at least we can come to great ideas. Let me give you an example of social listening. Example from the baker and the cookies. And who we see here, that is a cafe around the corner from here. The person on the right-hand side, he won the roasting championship in Australia twice, James Craig. And he used to live below me, so therefore I know him quite well. And the way how he really describes his art of coffee making is fantastic. So normally I would go there for a coffee. I don't have filter coffee machine at home, so I like the passion of going and have a coffee somewhere outside. And then I heard they also have cookies. Okay, but people come for the coffee. If this cafe, Mr. Spofford, would do an analytics and ask their people, be it inside with whatever talking, or on Google reviews, or online, or TripAdvisor, or wherever, they might find out that not just the coffee is good or bad, but when they decide to really listen, they can find out that maybe the cookies have a better perception in the market than the coffee, because there's 3 cafes in a row, but only this has the good cookies. If they do this and listen on social media and put questions out there for that and get a fantastic response, they could even improve the cookies a bit, adapt the menu, sell them for a bit higher, make different versions of that one, and get more clients, because they come then for the cookies. And you can then say, hey guys, the cookies are so famous, we even have a bundle together with coffee. So it turns around when they have so good cookies that they listen to the market and create also the market demand for the cookies. So it's an easy way how you can swap around an opinion and add something that looks like, oh, we just have also something like that to turn that around. Without listening to customers, impossible. But if you do it and you use social media as well, then you can spread around and people are going there. That's my funny example about the cookies because I love them. So some further ideas how we can nurture and care. And this first part around it is the larger one of the content I prepared for today. Some ideas. Nurturing and caring is important. Not always go and want something. So what can we do? Celebrations. For example, birthday, anniversary. Of course, we could try to remember when exactly is the date. So all in for you, I would know. But for many other people, I simply don't know. But I get the tools who tell me when somebody has a birthday. Facebook does, LinkedIn does, Outlook does, whoever does, and anniversaries. So instead of just saying happy birthday, better to share a genuine personal line, write them as a congratulation. Means something, connected, not to sell. Avoid 9 a.m. because that is automatically how Microsoft Outlook does. So that means the person actually doesn't care, but rather does it technically. Just ask how people are because they are busy on the birthday. If you maybe delay one day to come to the belated birthdays, that actually might be good because then the likelihood the person replies is actually higher. Might be good. So I like the celebration stuff, also anniversaries or let's say job promotion, this type of stuff. So that would be quite good. Having said that, I'm now already 2 years as well in my dream job. So next one would be questions. The typical thing what people do, they would ask happy clients for referrals. But that's rather in the sense of helping the next company with the same what you had the first one. But what about getting the referrals, but put it not in a sense of selling them the same, but rather ask them for their problems, put it in consultative mode, and then get some ideas that you can turn into content in a different way of using referrals. Or ask someone for their expertise about something. So in the sense of, let's say I'm preparing a longer article about social media for leadership level, not the very top, but let's say the middle management level. But of course, I would need to know somewhat about that. So then happy to tell them what I'm doing, but ask them for their expertise. And we all have people in our network. Maybe at the end, the idea is to sell them something or to do business with them, but come from the angle of you are seeking advice. And even if they like, write about that, put it on LinkedIn. And then even when there is a benefit coming from that request, share the outcome. That's something what I do regularly, and that gets quite nice engagement. And also ask who further can benefit, because then that turns it into the next stage. But without that piece of content, you will not be able to get to the next step. But you need to first create the content, and best way is simply to ask. We can take it even further. And then we have research. We can research out to a few known experts in your field. As an example, I met last week a book author who wrote a sales novel called Wentworth's Prospect. Fantastic book. It's a novel, 340 pages long, but that really tells, like a guidebook in a fiction story, how to sell business to business. Lovely. So then I met him. I even played the cameraman for his event. And I could ask a couple of questions, and that helps me further for some research. And if you have that, then you can create a mini chat group in LinkedIn, like you would do on WhatsApp or in Facebook Messenger. So that would be a possibility. Yes, I share the title of the novel. Yeah. So then, thanks, Mani. Create a common article or PDF file as an outcome. So like this science approach where you have 4 or 5 authors to create a bigger piece of content, you can do this as well. Team up with someone, create some small thing about it, a PDF, 2, 3, 4 pages, a podcast episode, whatever. But it started with research. It starts with curiosity, and then it turns into an outcome. That's the important thing about it. And then when you have that, ask other members who in their network should get it. You don't sell to your first-grade connections, but the gold is the second-grade connections. So that's what counts. So the next one, maybe less text, more pictures. Other ways to find ideas for creating material. Did you ever thought about, and this I tell you in 2022, not in the last 2 years of the pandemic, the buzz of a shared workspace to create ideas. So I'm working in a shared office space with other companies as well. And it's fantastic to have people around from a little bit different background. But when you know them a bit, it might help to run some ideas to them. Hear what they're talking. Get in a small talk. I'm happy that we can get to work in many places of the world. Maybe not always. Future is hybrid. But you can see what's going on and you can test some ideas. The next one, and Mani, I think you will like that, cafes. I used to always get inspiration from a good cup of coffee in a special environment. Here's my favorite coffee in Sydney, in Paddington. It's a bookstore turned into a cafe, even with a nice bagel and sauerkraut, very German. And there I wrote a half book over there, because inspiration, when you are surrounded with material and books, or in a library, spent yesterday whole day in New South Wales State Library, there I get the inspiration. And I think I'm not the only one. The third one, collaboration. Many of us know that talking on Zoom like this here became the norm for many. And when we get into a hybrid world, it still is a great chance to set up a group of people to talk together. So and that works very well on Zoom, whatever other tool for using this, to talk to people all over in the world. I personally really like this, and I'm very happy that we have people from all over the world in our small group here for today, plus those who are listening to this one. Yes, question to Mani, from Mani, yes, that actually is a bagel with bacon in it and with sauerkraut in a very non-Australian way, how you can combine that together. I really enjoy that. It was good. So I get content ideas all over, particularly in those type of places. But when we have all of the ideas, we know what somewhere is around where we can get something. We need to do something. And now comes again, question to you. On which days do you, oh, that's a typo, should be do you create and publish your content? It can be for those who write on social media, it can be for those who write rather longer articles, poems, whatever. On which days? For me, typically Sunday to create the schedule. There's a purpose on this question, so let's see what comes out. Mani, James, Neville, Pauline, anyone there? When do you normally create and publish content? You can type in the chat. Steve.
Oh, well.
Olin, you want to talk? Or Neville, who was it?
It really depends upon what's happening. I tend to sort of follow events. So if there's something happening and I compare an idea with something that's currently happening in the news, or
I like the idea. That's a good one. Steve, what you write, you're interested in sites which provide results of knowledge queries and remember to send the results each day. Yes, by the way, as Mani is very far away, Steve is living basically even half a kilometer around here, so that is good. Mani, you write Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Interesting, not Monday. And I would agree to that one. Let's not start the week with too much writing. There are, of course, people who have a very strict schedule, as if they become a slave by themselves, for themselves. Not necessarily my case. There's one reason why I combine create and publish. We are living in the 21st century, which means sharing knowledge is power. But we came from the idea of the 19th century or earlier, where keeping knowledge was power. But we can only share it then when the audience is ready for this and in the mood for this. I always tell the example of risk manager expert from Deloitte. He would research on a Saturday. He enjoyed that. And he would post 3 great pieces of content. And his audience might even see this on the smartphone while queuing on the barbecue, but they have completely different mindset. When they return and are open to serious topics like risk management, it's Monday. But the feed is full of everything else. When I write, doesn't mean that I publish then. So let's look into how can we take content that leads into conversations, because that's what we ultimately want. We don't want to just publish to have it published. It's great to have a book published, but we want to have readers so that these readers need to see this. They might want to come to events. And Mani, you enjoy your events the same as I do. When we have that published, we can talk to the audience. We can reflect from that. But we want the material to be out there. Same for every normal post. So I put it here in 3 steps. What content for me actually means on social media are 3 kinds, and they all start with a C. First is commenting. Here was a LinkedIn post that I've done a while ago, and there was a gentleman called Frank. He's also here from Sydney in finance, business advisor, and he commented on my post. A couple of lines, not just thanks or nice. Then I started dialogue with him, and then the next one, Wayne, the other author from the novel that I just shared, he then started talking about. So I like when comments turn into an engagement, particularly on LinkedIn. LinkedIn might even tell you in the meantime, when you have done a good comment, let's say substantial, 8 lines or so, LinkedIn will say, hey, don't you want to take this comment leading to that article as your own post? It's one new way to do content. The second one is curating. You find something somewhere Could it be somewhere on LinkedIn, like in this example, could be on Medium, on any other, on the blog, on the website, doesn't matter where, and you bring it into LinkedIn. That's curating, and that's how most social media managers in corporations work, because what they want is to take the traffic away from social media into their own ecosystem of their own website, blog, shop, whatever it is. But of course, the ultimate one is creating. You do something by yourself. You don't have a link that leads away. Social media platforms like LinkedIn and Facebook like this even more. So this was here with a gentleman called Sydney, and he's actually from Sydney. It was quite nice. By the way, you also see one little thing. The post on the right-hand side has a picture. And that picture, due to having a picture there, and I've chosen on purpose 2 people, because that is more favorable compared to a graphic arts type of illustration that often companies use, because real life people, that really what matters. But you can see there are 3 lines at the top. 2 lines, I put some content in there. Ideally, I write a question, a provocative statement, or anything that makes people press on see more, which is in the 3rd line. When you do this, then people are longer on the post because they want to read what's in there. And this pressing see more is what we ultimately would like to have. That help. This pressing see more on LinkedIn counts more for the algorithm than if someone pressed on like. But that is what really is called dwell time. How long someone is engaging with that post. And that is what really gets it further out. So I have a method how I choose content. I call it Trello. And I know that Trello is also a software to create projects like my online course here, or like a book with its chapters. But I don't talk about that company. Just by accident, the same letters appeared. So what I want to write and what I would like to transport in my post, first of all, is trust. Not just about the content I write, but also the ecosystem I'm in and me as personal brand. The second, I would like to talk about results. Not bragging, my Lamborghini and my villa and all of this. No. Results rather that maybe the area that I'm in helped someone to achieve an outcome, like this case study type of approach, or tell about a customer you helped, or anything good you have done in the community, that type of results. The next is enthusiasm, to really write with passion. The 4th one is learning. I could have taken E for education, but I say not the teacher approach of education, but rather the learner approach. I go to an event, I learn something, and that I share with my audience. Not I'm the teacher and I tell the audience something. So that's more the approach that I take here. Learning. The next one is lifestyle. Again, not the Lamborghini, but particular. When we saw the example from the cafe, I like to share the ecosystem around. For example, with the pandemic, when people stopped going to the city and rather had to find out that there's a cafe in their own neighborhood, that they can support local companies for takeaway and so on. But would maybe happen in whatever future lockdown, which I hope we won't have. And the last one is opportunity. Out of 6 letters, a last one about my offering. And even that, not in the sense of buy this or procure that. So that's the way how I structure that. Every piece of content I put out on LinkedIn should follow at least one of those 6 letters. I could even have a full calendar where Monday is trust, Tuesday is results, Wednesday is enthusiasm, and so on. But of course, it depends how the content falls. Depends how events happening, like Neville mentioned earlier, also Steve did. But my point here, and now 4 lines with a P, you need to provide value in all posts. Value is for me something perceived from the other person, not necessarily value just for me. Posting once per day. There's some people who post extremely often. If you have 200,000 followers, please do so. But if you don't, and I don't, I have 8,000 on LinkedIn, which is quite a bit. If I would post twice, then LinkedIn will reduce the second post reach because the first one's already there. And that makes it quite tricky. So therefore, once enough, maybe sometimes I do twice. Pitch never. I hate this, buy me, buy my service, I'm the best. So that makes no sense. And we see it too often on Facebook and Instagram. And produce in batches, meaning when you have content, it doesn't mean that then the audience is there. So I rather sit on a Sunday and think about what are the things I would like to cover. There will be a webinar I attend, like this one. Or I went to a physical event of a book presentation, then I put this in. That will be my trigger to post when it's hot. And let me show you an example from the person who I really, really admire, who started putting some online courses together maybe nearly 3 years ago. And he's younger than me, used to be a leader in 2 software companies, and now is a content creator. So I learned from him one thing. I told you these 3 dots, see more. How can we transport a message? And I learned that from him. Write it in Twitter first. Switch Twitter to the dark mode. So it looks optically different. Make a screenshot, what I've done last week on the 1st of April. And that screenshot is a picture. That picture is visible on LinkedIn, as we saw on the other example. But nobody needs to press on see more because the content is there already. So that's the way how you can really get your points across as long as it is short. And I tested it with this example from my Trello formula. And I started with a question to get people a bit of curious, also in LinkedIn. And then at the bottom of this picture, I ask a further question as a call to action. So people who see this in their unconscious mind have the feeling they should better answer that question. And that's what I like about it. So I don't use this all the time, but it's a way to add a picture which actually is not a photo, but rather it is content in a very crisp form. Not more than 2 lines in one paragraph. Otherwise, it looks like a text from Kafka, which is not so well done on online. He was not an online writer back then. As Ollie knows and as Mani knows. So for me, there's even a difference from learning to applying. And I come soon to the next question, and the number of slides are getting lower per chapter for today. So difference from learning to applying. I thought about a good way is to do some brainstorming. So when we have everything before, like the content audit, we know we go to events and we know we have some kind of ideas, what Steve, what you put out there, then the question is, how can we note it down? So a bit old-fashioned, I like to write down on paper, but you can put also in a tool like Evernote, Google Keep, or Apple Notes, whatever it is, even Microsoft Word, what I use for my LinkedIn post. Have it somewhere that it sits there. And also, I often read online. So I see something that looks good that I would like to memorize. So I make a screenshot on my iPhone, and I assign this screenshot to a special folder related to content brainstorming, so that it's easier to find with all other travel photos. And there's so many different formats we can do. Even on LinkedIn alone, we have text only, text with image or more, text with carousels, there's plenty of images, with documents, videos, polls. So many ways how you can use the same piece of content or idea and do different things about it. Ask a poll, ask people questions, all possible. And then when you have all of that and you know what you want to write, then the question, what is a good format? How to write it fast, efficient? And the best way is to create templates. Example is a list post. The 5 best things to do this or that. Mani, you could write about, think about your creative writing past the 5 best places for creative writing. Something like this. And you can put it in 5 paragraphs already. And I normally do this on Mondays, latest Tuesdays, my social selling Monday, always I have 4 items in it. These are the 4 tips what you can do. I'm born on the 4th, that's why. Then the webinar post, event post, like never sleep what you said. I have a way how I then summarize. I sometimes type it directly in Twitter or directly into LinkedIn, what I learned from an event, ask question at the end, show a photo of the speaker, maybe speaker and audience, but in a way of the learning of an event. And when you create this once, then you can just fill the blanks. You can create a post about some curiosity question, write it like an example, see what works, take this, make a template out of this. Like you can even do in Gmail, you can create templates. It's an easy thing. A result post in the sense of you help customer X to achieve Y in circumstances of Z. When you have done that once, maybe with 3 paragraphs, situation, that was the obstacle, that was the solution, that's the outcome, whatever way, then you can do something with that. Create it once, use it more often. It goes very fast. Create once and you reuse. That's the idea of having templates. To basically industrialize content production. And then when you have done that, how to do, how to get the outcome, schedule. You can have a calendar that you know when it would work. Write half of your material in batches, half ad hoc to follow events and so on. Mani just asked if you create templates in Word. I actually have a Word file with all my LinkedIn posts per calendar here. And then I simply copy from all the Mondays are always the same. I copy that structure and have it in there. And Word goes good enough for that. You can also use other tools. I like to use Gmail. In Gmail, you can create templates as well, like a templated email that you always send something, whoever, let's say, here's my post from Tuesday, and you send someone something, then you can create the regularity on it, like templates need to be switched on. But Word is good enough, like one scrapbook file of everything. You can transform comments on other materials into posts as well. And then when it's coming to publishing, as I mentioned, post when the audience is active, not when you write it. But where is the audience? Do they have the same time? They have 7 p.m. or 7:30 actually already, 7:40, but money for you in Hamburg is completely different. You must have 11:40 a.m. So they need to pay attention for those who are writing for international audiences or even nationally here, 3 hours back to Perth. Why we do this? Because we want to avoid getting newer posts into the feed of your audience. When you have it, doesn't mean the other person is ready for it. When they're ready for it, something else came in between and your content is nowhere. So there's software for doing though, like Hootsuite, to post at the right time. Then you can put it all in on Sunday and it all posts for you. So that's good. But one action still remains, and that is engagement. We don't want to have it just posted. We want people to work with that. And that's a good thing in social media. For LinkedIn, quite similar to Facebook, the first 2 hours of engagement, they really count. They make the difference. When you post on LinkedIn, very quickly, LinkedIn sends to a sample of your audience that they see it first, those who might potentially engage with that. When they then see that, then that decides how many other people do it. You can help, you can direct it as well. You can bring readers to your post. You can tag people better in the comments than in the post. And then you can send it also to others in a direct message and say, hey, look, Steve, I just wrote this piece about cybersecurity research. I know you're interested in it. Please have a look, and I would appreciate if you could comment about it. If I sent it to him, he can click on it. Otherwise, maybe he wouldn't know about it. So these are the things where I believe you can go from scheduling, publishing further in achieving what we all want, and that is engagement. And that goes so nicely on social media. When you and I, when we have been featured in one book in 1997, so long ago, you will need to bring audience to an event that we can have a common discussion about it. It's still possible with Meetup and other interfaces, or when you have a publisher who helps facilitating this. And I would love to do this as well. Again here, and for those which are in Sydney, for Olin and for Steve, I'm planning the next book event on the 3rd of November in the Castlereagh Boutique Hotel. My own, yes. So that's that about that. So the next topic and the last for today is the word of copy. And I mean here a bit more copy paste instead of copy like advertising text. So question, and I type it in the chat as well for you. How often do you reuse your existing material? If somebody starts writing on social media, they might not have that much to lean back to. But I really like to go back to something. And I actually last week I met a marketer, owner of a marketing agency, who said, hey, look, on your videos, you always look only straight in the camera and they all look the same. You could change it. And he said, you know what? I stopped recording them. And I replied, but hey, I just saw it. He said, yeah, I always use, they go in circles, always every week I post them twice, and I have 222 of them. It doesn't matter. They do not need to be, they won't be old. I only talk small snippets, but he was only talking straight in the camera, not even moving the head or any type of gesture on it. So then, Marley, you write only one time when I posted at Facebook and Instagram too. Yeah, that is one way of reusing it and maybe slightly adopting. But what you could do as well also is to use it slightly different or take portions of it and use it somewhere else. So let me show you what I've done once with successful content. Once I got a hint from my best mate here in Sydney, from Paul, and he shared a material from an article on about electric vehicles. I thought that might be a nice one. So it was an article on a magazine called electric.co, wherever that is, about England being the first country to require new homes to include the chargers for electric vehicles, with this lovely picture of a Tesla. So then I added a bit of a summary, what I like to do about something. Instead of just sharing the link, I thought, okay, I put something on it. Start with a provocative question, getting a question at the end, adding hashtags on LinkedIn, 3 to 5, not necessarily more, and not all of them very good. But I never used innovation before, so that was a good one. So that made quite a big difference. So I took this content, curated it basically, added some kind of thoughts to it, not more. It was sent by Paul. I started with hook and the question, summaries, key takeaways, why the readers should read it. I kept it brief to encourage reading. I tagged the original author, who then, as a consequence, she connected with me. She was from Florida. It was good. How many these hashtags? Innovation had 13.9 million followers. Result from this one, yeah, the photo was nice. I got 150,731 views. For many, that's nothing. For me, that's amazing. So I'm very happy for that. And I got 574 likes, 55 comments. The comments, that's what's all about. And even more, 20 people shared it further. That's good. Some from second grade connections, third grade connections. Those people apparently had interest into this one. So what can I do? Connect with those people. Find out what else in that area they're interested in and what inspiration I can get from them to share content. But most of them, they only took this and shared it further. Like here, this Dr. Alamod took this mine and only added one line. That is not the way how you get a lot of engagement for that side, but at least. Once I've done that, this was actually the second time I've done something like that. The first time got in the 140,000. I basically crafted this type of principle, and this was the second time. The first one was pretty similar a couple of months earlier. So I tried to repeat that. So I reused the setup of an article where I find it when I post it. But then later, I shared it again. Why not? Nobody remembers that once that went so well. Only I see how many views it is. You can always do it again. Very good question from Mani. How about the copyright when using content from other authors? So if I would have taken this initial text, England will be first country, blah, blah, take statements from it and would write it as my own, not good. Even as the article was published online and is visible for free, not good. So better is to have, of course, ensure that you have the source written and ideally even the author. As this was an online article, there's not a need, technically speaking, that I would ask for a permission. But if I would have, for example, a picture with the author of this lovely book, Wentworth Prospect, John Smallbert and myself, I write about the review of this book, I will ask for permission to use a picture of him and me, and even I share my review with him, despite as journalist I don't have to, but I do it. If I've done an interview, I should actually. So here, good comment from Steve. I create from scratch using any materials to hand. Picture from recent sunset. Yes, you have the view that I don't have made. So that's a good one, but mine is not too bad. Flowers in the reserve, online scenes, and so on. Communicate with music, visual scene. That's a good way to blend them all together. Thank you. That's a good comment to this one, because if you add something what's really your own, you don't run into these troubles. And you can also add more senses. So how do I do this? Every Monday, normally I write about social selling. We still have Monday, and sometimes I say, okay, Tuesday here is Monday in the US. Okay, would work as well. There I find it. And I simply have a website for this. With every week, I put it on, and then I can see if I would like to talk about offline, online, offline, how you can have this blended with meeting with people and online. I knew that happened on 21st of June last year. I click on it, it goes straight into LinkedIn. I take the content, I write it as a new post because it was mine anyway, different picture, and I adopt the text. 10 minutes, done. So you can copy paste yourself very well, but you need to have a list where that sits. Every post has its own URL. On LinkedIn, easy to find. On the post, you can share that. On Facebook, tricky to find. But a Facebook post, speaking mostly on the desktop, has the time when it was posted, 10 hours ago, 1 day ago. Click on that, and then you get the link to this post. LinkedIn is easier for that, but it's possible. And then you can share. So that's how I simply grab that. So what I would like to share, I talked a lot about content, and instead of having my own online course for that, I totally admire this gentleman, Justin Welch, who started online course over LinkedIn like I did, but he left the corporate world. He's a consultant by himself, and he came from maybe 10,000 people on LinkedIn due to his work, and now have 200,000 followers nearly. He went into Twitter about September last year, August, September, and now he's on number 43 on all historical writers on LinkedIn when it comes to engagement. That guy really knows how to do. So he called it content operating system for creating 10 to 15 quality pieces of written content every single day. That doesn't mean I should do the same, but it means for me, it was the best invested money for an online course, 55 minutes, and I get even more every now and then from that. To really learn his principle, how to drill down the way of getting inspiration, putting it into tools that he has, that he shares, which are even for free, most of them, and how to industrialize content production in order to gain attention. He posts at certain times. In my late evening, I went on a post yesterday evening, was 11 p.m., clicked on it, I just saw it, I commented as maybe the first. Immediately he replied, and for the first 1 hour, he only sits and replies. The first comment he puts on, always about, do you want to like to get my newsletter? And here, actually, I have a course for that. He creates a pull that people want to have that. And I only can say it's the best invested $150 to get into this way of course, where he explains in a very direct, practical way how to get how to create content for online writing. Fantastic. Really enjoy that, and need to write a review soon about that. So here's a link to this, which I will share with you to just have a look how that would work. Mani, there's no German version for that, but it's English, but it's very well understandable, and it's not long. That's a good one. So thank you so far. If you have further questions, please ask. Yes, Steve, you just write, no one pays attention to text alone. Yes and no. Justin is a brilliant writer for text only, sometimes added with imagery, but what he added is one thing what I've done unconsciously without knowing. In the times of book printing, you would be clear how a page looks like. What is top, what's bottom, what fits in there, the width of it. You would maybe arrange so that the right number of words fits inside. In online, as a writer, I do not know what device the other person has. The only thing I know, everyone can scroll down. So what Justin does, what I do as well, we put 3 lines in between so that you can read a one-liner. You can read 2 lines in a paragraph, maybe 4, but better not 10. Otherwise, it looks like a block of text thrown at you, like Kafka did back then, because he didn't know that he could have double enter and then to have a 3 line. Yeah. So what do I do? How can I help? So many people in smaller business and entrepreneurs, they are rather a bit of challenging in the way how they work with LinkedIn. They could be overcautious, they could be overwhelmed, and they could be overthinking how to get content out and be perceived for that in their personal brand. So that happens to many people. So therefore I help them. Have a free 30 minutes call to figure out how I can help someone indeed. Then I sometimes go there and help people to refresh their LinkedIn profile to make this a bit better, not just from a writing perspective, but from a systematic perspective. Because many people think still today that LinkedIn is an online resume, like a CV, but it's not. It's a personal branding tool. With a side effect, when you're applying for a job, it's handy to have a LinkedIn profile. And I have an online course for exactly that, to help in enhancing the knowledge to get to the next level. It's also rather a short one for whatever the price, whatever the currency that's there. It has 4 topics, all start with a C. What is the price? How to complete your whole mindset about personal brand, how to connect with the audience, how to work on content, comment, create, and also then how to convert, because we only write in order to do something with that. And then you can see engage, establish, elevate. Here I managed 3 times the same letter. And at the end, there's even a little bit of a cabinet of some other tools and further recording sitting in there. So that's what I'm doing. So for those who are interested in this, I can help on work on the online course and then also to provide the refresh on the LinkedIn profile. These are the prices in AUD. We see I had a good bloke in the Netherlands. So then, of course, there's a euro price for that available as well. And in addition to this, I also have a Facebook group called Organic LinkedIn Community. I'll share that as well. And this is what I wanted to share. Any question to any of you? Mani, you asked about that offer complete. You mean on the page beforehand?
Ich habe das jetzt nicht ganz verstanden, weil du sehr schnell warst. Also ist das ein Angebot von dir, dass man dich praktisch buchen kann?
Yes.
Also ich könnte dich buchen für, und jetzt hast du verschiedene Varianten.
Let me explain in English slowly. So I have the online course to learn how to work on the LinkedIn site. It's $97 or I think it was 66 euro or something like that. And I can help on the LinkedIn profile from you to help. I review this, I suggest what to change. So these are the 2, and it comes with a 45-minute call or maybe 1 hour. So as soon as we finish. And these are the things that I actually do. So and there's a website for this that's sitting there at the top, and there I can offer these topics. So couple of slides before, I shared the course from Justin because it fits to the topic of today. And I normally provide these and help a number of people every month, either with their online course, which is recorded that I have, that you can execute whenever you wish, and the LinkedIn profile refresh, where I add some labor to help concrete directly with the profile refresh to really get into the next level. So that's what I do, the course and help on the LinkedIn profile. Hope that is clear. So then, James, thanks for your information. Thanks for staying for the time. So that appreciated very much. And by the way, what I will do also, I will share for everyone who registered for this today and got an email from me that this happens, then you will receive automatically an email 12 hours afterwards with the recording. For all others, the recording will be on my website, linkedinpowerlab.com. I put it there as soon as it's ready, within 1 hour. And I will share an email about that as well. So thank you for joining. A smaller group today because some people have been sick, but I hope those who I main will be back in health very soon and will listen to the recording. Any further question, please let me know. That would be good.
Hi, Gunnar. Sorry for being late, by the way. I had a last-minute meeting, so I could only catch the last bit of the webinar, but I think that was the most important part. So yeah, I will sign up for the first thing you put on the screen. Yeah.
Perfect. Yes, I will share that with you. Yes. Thank you, Leo. And I know that you wrote that you couldn't come from the beginning. Appreciate that you joined, and
My pleasure.
also good to meet you recently anyway.
Yes, we will be in touch anyway. Yeah,
We will continue, absolutely. Of course. Thank you for this. Thank you also, Mani from dialing in from Hamburg, so far away. And you and I, we started 25 years ago to consider content, and we have been featured actually in. I found it recently. I have it somewhere. Books where I wrote poems back then. I wrote 99 poems before stopping. That was nice back in the days.
So we can have a poem reading together. You from Sydney and I from Hamburg.
Oh,
hey, good. Yeah, that's a good one. Lovely. Yeah, thank you for joining. Vielen Dank und Grüß dich an Wolfgang. Oline, Tigul, Muscat, Uvidime, Taki, Tadi, Sydney. Neville, let's talk as well because you got the online course as well.
With my new eye, I had a cataract operation last week, you see.
Already done.
So I took the lens out of my Brillen.
Well done.
This is the new eye.
Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for joining. I appreciate a lot.
Servus.
Servus.